and adversity. Well, that's a phrase that could easily title this series of videos we're producing in the summer and the autumn to highlight the work of 4 artists whose work appears in the collections of Bethlem Museum of the Mind, who had lived experience of mental distress. But in fact, Art and Adversity is the title of this beautifully produced book, which is devoted to the artwork of Bryan Charnley, one of those artists, and contains dozens, in fact almost 100 reproductions of his artwork. And we're selling this book, Art and Adversity, here at the museum for £19.95, UK postage and packing included. And the way you can order is just by following the link at the bottom of the screen. Bryan Charnley is the first of these 4 artists that we want to highlight in these videos, and like others, his work didn't receive the critical acclaim that it really deserved during his lifetime. Bryan Charnley, even while he was selling his paintings, worried that his audience was mostly mental health professionals. And the author of Art and Adversity, who happens to be his twin brother James, comments that Bryan wanted his work to be seen as a commentary on madness rather than the work of a madman. In other words, he didn't want his art to be pigeonholed any more than he wanted to be labelled as a schizophrenic. He was given that diagnosis of schizophrenia by the mental health establishment, and he accepted it, but he resisted the idea that it was going to be the chief defining characteristic of his personality, let alone his creative output. Bryan Charnley was never a patient at Bethlem or either of its sister hospitals, the Maudsley or Wallingham Park Hospital, but here at Bethlem Museum of the Mind we do have a number of his paintings in our collection. I'll tell the story of how these came into our collection in another video, but today I want to comment on the work of his that I'm standing next to, which was painted in 1986 and is unassumingly titled Grey Self-Portrait. And if you look down in the bottom of the picture, you can see the portrait subject crouching down and forward with his hands over his head, almost in a fetal position. But of course, the most prominent feature of the painting is this oversized ear of the artist's imagination, within which there's a pair of whispering lips. It's tempting to understand the picture solely in terms of the auditory hallucinations, which are a common symptom of schizophrenia. On that reading, this figure down below is hypersensitized to voices, completely unheard by other people, but loud and clear to him, and that he's being overwhelmed by the accusations of worthlessness which are likely being flung at him by those voices. But a rival explanation to this lies within the pages of Art and Adversity. Any success that he had with his career was always going to be matched by his anxieties, writes his brother James. He was a great worrier, I would say. As simple as it sounds, Bryan's psychosis was perpetuated by worry. In other words, it may be possible to appreciate Charnley's art without always having to pathologize it in psychiatric terms. You don't have to suffer from schizophrenia to be subject to your own inner running commentary on how well, or often how badly, you're doing things. You don't have to be psychotic to be hounded by the whisper of your own unrealistically high expectations. Thinking about Grey Self-Portrait in this way opens up the possibility of it being a far more relatable picture. It could be argued that today we're living in the era of the self-portrait. There is great pressure on people only ever to present smiling and positive versions of themselves on social media and elsewhere. It takes considerable courage to admit that this is not the entire truth about any person at all times, and courage to reveal one's own insecurities and self-doubts. Bryan Charnley possessed that courage. Ironically, it was a series of self-portraits produced by Charnley 5 years after Gray's self-portrait, which led to the high watermark of his critical acclaim, such as it was. And this was represented by the exhibition of these later self-portraits at the National Portrait Gallery in London. The story of this exhibition, which Charnley did not live to see, is told in Art and Anxiety, alongside reproductions of all 17 of those self-portraits in the series, which are far better seen in this edition of the booklet we're selling here at the museum for $19.95 to UK customers until stocks run out. Far better seen there than in the Kindle edition, which is the only version you're likely to find for sale online. You just need to follow the link, as I've already said, at the bottom of the screen. Well, thank you for watching this video, which has been produced with a view to opening up remote access to the Museum of the Mind's rich collections and opening up conversations about mental health and well-being. There's much more I want to say about Bryan Charnley and the museum's other artists, so stay tuned to the museum's YouTube and social media channels, and we look forward to seeing you there.